Welcome to the KC Ingram Show, Meet Your Candidate series. No spin, no agenda, no endorsements, just the candidate. Before we begin, I'd like to thank the many listeners who submitted questions for this interview. Several of those questions have been incorporated into today's discussion. Questions are not shared with the candidates prior to the interview. If you enjoy the show and would like to stay informed on the local issues and elections, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm Casey Ingram. Let's get into it. I'd like to welcome Tony Anderson to the show. Tony previously served on the Martin County School Board and is now running to reclaim the District 4 seat currently held by Amy Pritchett. You previously served on the school board and were defeated by Amy Pritchett, Tony. What motivated you to file to reclaim your seat, and why do you believe now is the right time to return?
Well, to be honest with you, was defeated by less than a 0.5%. Clearly not a mandate there. It's a toss-up, as they said. But I walked away. I could have even gotten a recount, but I said, no, I'm good. I'm good. It's the way it worked out. And, 1 year passed and a few people started calling me saying, hey, man, we need you back. 2 years passed and the calls became greater. Fast forward up until the last 6 months, and it was just unbelievable, the outpouring that I have gotten from citizens in this town that, I mean, they're someone that I think most people would respect. They know what's going on. They want what's best for their. I never thought I would be running again, and it just kept coming, and I kept saying no, and it became so. I was humbled and moved by the outpouring, and I finally could no longer say no. So I had taken. I said that there was a crack in my foundation because I had pretty much said no, and as we got closer, I could no longer. I said, I'm humbled by this. I told my wife, I got to do it. I'm sorry. I know I said I wouldn't. You're not too happy about me going back because it's a tough job. But you know what? I've got to go back. Yes.
And it is, and it's a very, it makes the race interesting because you have a voting record, and of course, Amy Pritchett has a voting record. The other candidate is going to be new, but there's something to see the history of how you all have voted and handled yourselves on that dais. So it'll be a very interesting race. And Tony, what are you most proud of when you served on the board before?
Well, one of the things is that we were able to get the public to pass the penny tax. We were able to rebuild Jensen Beach, Palm City, some of the older schools. We needed funds, and it was a tough decision because we're saying, I don't think people will agree for this. And lo and behold, we did a good job of marketing that as a board, and the citizens understood the importance of it. That was one thing. The other thing that was important for the first time when I was on the board, we transitioned from an elected superintendent to appointed. And that's been debated for years. I mean, to be honest with you, 6 in one hand, half a dozen out. Everything has its advantages. But anyway, we felt what happened is that with the elected superintendent, the pickings were getting pretty slim in this small town. So you didn't have, all you needed to do was just be a registered voter, okay? I mean, that's not much for qualifications.
Right.
So we decided if you can, get an appointed superintendent, you can put qualifications out there worldwide and you can get the best person. So I was glad of that. And I was on board when we went through that interview. I forget how many people applied, but it was quite an ordeal and I will never forget it because right on down to, our selection. So I was part of history on that and I was glad to be a part of it. And so we did that. That was, to me, was really important as well. Aside from that, I think I was proud that I was a person that teachers, and not only teachers, but all school board personnel, they felt like they could come and talk to me. They didn't feel as if they had to, tip up on me or beg me. They knew that I was a person that basically I was one of them. I was an educator. And so that made me feel good. And people always told me, you listen and you make sense. That's pretty good. And but it's because of my background, my experience, and what I've done, my training. So it allowed me. Currently we don't have not one board member on there with an education background. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have an education background to be a good board member. The diversity is good, and we have some people with other backgrounds, and they bring different things. But for us to be in the business of education and not have not one person with man, that's just sad. And it's showing, too, with what's happening. Nobody that'll speak up. How can you think about something if you don't have anybody sitting at that table? When the tough issues come up, I'm not just talking about school board meetings that the public see. To me, the most critical meetings are what we call our executive sessions, where the doors are closed and locked, and we debate things there. And I think that's been my strong point. I've been able to get some of the other board members to take the blinders off, or at least to widen your vision and see the whole picture. And that to me comes from my experience. And we don't have that now.
Do any of your children attend or have they attended Martin County schools, Martin County Public Schools?
Yes, and not only that, the clock as well graduated from there. Yes. So
How
that was going to be my other thing. School board members, and this is where we are now, should be the biggest and best ambassadors of public schools. That's another reason, another problem that we're having right now. This private, for profit has come out. Don't get me wrong. I am not against charter schools, but charter schools were designed, at least back in the day, to be something uniquely different, to offer something special. There are a couple that's doing that, but a lot of those that are opening up now, they're not offering anything special. They don't have the same rules and regulations. They don't have give the accountability. They've been sold a false narrative by private people that's coming in and making money. And our school board has not done a very good job of, representing. But how you gonna sit on a board for public education? You don't even believe in it. That's all I'm gonna say. That's a joke. That's a joke. You have to be the best ambassador, and we don't have that. And that's where the problem is now. We have a problem with recruitment and retention of not only teachers and other school board personnel, including bus drivers, bus aides, and everybody else, but also students, because a lot of them have fallen into that false narrative thinking that these charter schools are better, and they're not. I can tell you they're not. They look nice in their little uniforms, and it make them feel special to say, oh, I go to this school. And it looks good, but they're not getting the same education. Their kids are being, and I tell you what, if you could pull the numbers, you'll be surprised to know how many parents finally wake up who took their kids out, put them in the charter school, and guess what? They made an about face and came back. So it's robbing us. I say we got to stop the bleeding because we're losing kids. It is so sad. It's unbelievable.
Gotcha. Now, with your kids growing up in the public school system, how has that shaped your views on public education?
Well, that's everything. I mean, I'm a product of this. Not only that, my predecessors, my dad and my brothers, they were all very involved in public education prior to integration. My dad played a very big role into public education and making that smooth transition. So I grew up in that. Somebody jokingly told me the other day that I was born into education. And what they meant was they knew that I grew up around strong people that were involved. My brother David, my dad, the late Reverend Jesse and David is also, and I don't ride on their coattails. Okay, I'm just simply saying that that's a part of my experience. I basically can remember 6 superintendents in my time, and we haven't had a whole lot of them. I remember 6, and my institutional knowledge, that's what that gives me. Not that I'm better than anybody else. I didn't even go to school for that. Life brought me that. That's the other component, okay? My institutional knowledge has allowed me to be a better leader and a school board member because I can look at every one of those administrations and see what was good, what wasn't so good. And I was able to, nobody else has that kind of experience. And my opponent came here, 2017? I mean, really? And got mad because we had to wear a mask? That was her words. I'm upset because he said we had to wear a mask. He thinks, and I was me and the others that voted for it. I think we all ended up voting for it. Oh, he thinks he knows what's better for our kids than we do. No, I don't think I know what's better for your kids. You make that decision. What I know is what at that time we were dealing with COVID. COVID came along. I was a good board member. Things were going along just fine. COVID came up and everything went crazy. We were going in uncharted territories. So we had to proceed. I mean, on one hand, people were saying, if you keep school open, the blood of the kids and the teachers going to be on your hand. You have school, we don't want our kids to go to school. And then we need to go to school. What do? So we made a choice. You can go remotely, or if you go, you got to wear a mask when we finally went back to school. And sadly, it's only a percentage of them. I don't know, 15, 20%. They drive the bus, man. They stir the pot. And if people are not really rooted and grounded and knowing what's going on, you know what they say, the loud noise, the empty wagon makes the loudest noise. And they were making all this noise about how bad we were, how bad I was. I thought I knew more about the kids because I got them going to school and they should not be going, muzzling them with a mask. Well, you have a choice. Keep them home and let them until we can get a handle. No, they didn't want to do that. They wanted their kids to still go to school and not wear a mask. That's just insanity. I mean, and the way some of them carried on at board meetings, going in and carrying on, and I never knew that people could still act that way. And so that's what doomed me, because it was a false narrative that I thought I knew what was better for the kids, and they painted a false picture. But I think by now that fog is gone and it's cleared up, and people see very well what has happened. I will tell you this, and a lot of people don't know this. What was it? Just shortly after I lost, I got a call from a Washington correspondent. I thought it was a joke at first. And then as we began to talk, I realized that it was for real. And they said, I'm going to be coming down to Mar-a-Lago to cover the general election in 2022. You know, I lost in the primary in August. General election.
Right.
So they were coming down from Washington to cover the general election, mainly the president down in Mar-a-Lago. And they said there was a study done, and it showed that this real controversy in Florida with school board is unlike anything we've ever seen. And we really, did a lot of probing, and we found out that sadly in the state of Florida, there were not my word, there were very good school board members that lost because of what was perpetuated and what was being said during that time. You were one of them. So since I'm going to be in West Palm Beach, I understand Martin County is close to West Palm Beach. I'd like to come by and interview you. Well,
Wow.
guess what? They came by. We, me being the man of hospitality, I had dinner prepared at my house, and we discussed that. And it was to me, it made me feel good. I say, sadly, I wish that the people in Martin County knew about this so they could, I don't think nobody ever read the article. And it really wasn't published here. It was all over the place, but we didn't read it here. But at that time, it was what it was. And then 2 years later, that same correspondent called me and said, I'm going to be back in Florida. Can I come by to see you? And they came by again. And people called me and they were hurt. They were disappointed, not in me, but in the results. They said, if I was a betting person, there's no way in the world I would have lost all my money, because I just knew because of who you are. Okay. And they were apologetic, and it's okay. I'm going to be, they were embarrassed. How could this happen? But it happened.
It did. It did. So if you're reelected, what do you hope to accomplish over the next 4 years?
First and foremost, I'm going to make sure that I do what I call, we got to stop the bleeding, man. We got to do recruitment and retention of teachers, because they're losing them because of the treatment that's going on. Years ago, when teachers saw school leaders, superintendents, and people high and off, and school board members, by the way, they were glad to see them. The school board, the superintendent would come by, and they knew people. How are you doing? First of all, they want to know, how are you doing? How's your family? And I know we've grown, but people feel that you were valued and respected first and foremost. Okay. Nowadays, if they see them coming, they want to go to teachers or education. They want to go the other way. I don't even want to see them, because all they're doing is treading water, just trying to keep their job. And a lot of matters that should be attended to, they're not being attended to. And that was one of my strong points. People would call me when they couldn't call anybody else. And I tell you, I didn't turn anybody down, probably to my detriment. I would at least listen. That's what people always tell me. I like you because at least you listen. And in a lot of cases, my listening caused me to go in and get results that never had to come out at a school board meeting, because I went into a closed door and said, hey, this is what's happening. And you may be insulated, but you're no longer insulated. I'm telling you what's happening. I got proof. This needs to change. And I was an advocate for everybody, teachers, all people.
Tony, that was actually one of my questions coming up. So retaining teachers and recruiting them, give us some specific policies or initiatives you would champion to help attract and retain the high quality teachers.
Well, first of all, they really have to feel as if you respect them and you want them here. I mean, it's one thing to go out and get them. When a teacher have a legitimate issue, it needs to be addressed. And it starts on the site, and the principal needs to be given the authority to be the first line of defense, because you can't burden the superintendent with every little thing. But I think a lot of times, even the site people, the principal, they're afraid because things are just so tense now. It's like nobody want to hear about anybody else's problem. Just do it. And God forbid, the worst thing a teacher could hear, and sometimes you get this, and sadly, it's only with about maybe 10 or 15% of the parents, but it carries a lot of damage with it, is that sometimes their kids are just as wrong could be. And they go out for a conference, they talk to the teacher in a disrespectful way. Teacher don't have anywhere to go. Principal don't really want to handle it because you know what that parent, I'm going to call downtown. That's the most dreaded words. Because when you call downtown, guess what? No telling who's going to get the call. Probably won't be the superintendent. He may not even know what's going on. And that person that's going to fill that call, they're probably going to try to get that teacher. Why don't you just keep your head down and do your work? No, some things need to be addressed, regardless of what. Just like the mask mandate. Now, I could have played it safe and went on with this crazy stuff that was going on and say, well, I just want to get reelected. No, I spoke truth. And I knew that would probably be to my detriment. And even at that, less than 0.5%. So you have to be accountable. If you're going to get in these positions, you cannot be afraid to go and answer the call and do what you need to do. So we got to make the teachers feel as if they have a legitimate problem, I'm here to hear you out, and we got to work this thing out. You know what happens a lot of times with teachers, and I can tell you this for a fact. I got firsthand experience, not personally, but I know people where it actually happened when I was working there. If you keep calling and say, hey, this is a problem, I need help, you aggravate them downtown. You know what they were doing? They would finally say, I know what, I'll get them off my back. They would refer them to mental health counseling and tell them you need to go for counseling. That's insult to injury. You're talking about putting salt in the wound. Here this person has a legitimate problem out of somebody that's doing something really wacky. All it takes is one parent that's disgruntled, that want their kid to have their way, and then they just want to bulldoze everybody. And they would send these by mandate. You go or you're going to lose your job. Well, a lot of teachers got caught into that, and guess what? They could not fight it. They need their jobs. Even if they fought it and went to court and won, you'll be in the poorhouse by the time you get to it. So what did they do? They just went along with it and accepted that, and that's a hurtful thing. I mean, I can tell you story after I know the story. They're too embarrassing to even talk about. I mean, I've seen the things happen. So, I would make sure the teachers know they have a voice. They have somebody they can go to. There should be a committee set up to listen to their complaints. And then you can soon decide now if somebody's just blowing smoke or if it's for real. But when people feel as if you don't want to hear about it, they're not going to go and jeopardize themselves because it's a threatening position. But I think a committee should be set up to be there to hear what they have to say, sort of like a primary, whenever there's a problem, let's at least get it at this level first and see if it needs to go on and go further. You can't call the superintendent office with every little thing, but There should be systems in place because you know what? Teaching is a tough job, and our teachers are doing a great job in spite of it. Somebody say, well, we're a school. Well, it's a letter, and those numbers are numbers, but there's something called improvement. My dad used to tell me there's good, there's better, and there's best. So much for your A, but there's so much in there that's not being talked about that's really a shame. They have an A because of the teachers, despite the shabby treatment that they're getting.
Now, you've been out of office. Are there any positions or votes from your previous tenure that you would handle differently today?
Well, in talking with some friends, they'll tell you that I wouldn't do it differently, but it just shows you what people are doing, survival of the fittest. But I'm a man that have to sleep at night. I'm not trying to self-preserve Tony. I will do what I got to do, even if it costs me. Some are saying that maybe I shouldn't have spoke out quite as much about the COVID thing but no, I don't regret that. That was a serious problem. So no, and I'm not perfect, but I think everything I gave a lot of thought to, and like one night there was a big issue going on there, and I finally said this was a parent that didn't want the kids to wear a mask, and I made the statement, this schoolhouse is not your house. Oh my God, they took that and they ran with it. He said the schoolhouse don't belong to us. That's not what I meant. What I was saying, you're not the only one inside the schoolhouse. That's not like your private house. We've got to have some rules and regulations. We're dealing with something we don't know about. If you don't want your little Johnny or Julie to go to school with a mask, keep them home. We provided an option. And they took that and made me to be the worst man in town. Oh, he think he knows more about what's going on in public education for us. No, send them, do whatever you want to do. I tell you what I do know. I'm a trained professional, and you need to make the professionals make the decisions that's going to be best overall and in the long run. Because there are some things that I may not like, but you know what? It needs to be done for the good of everything. And people need to understand. And most of the parents are very understanding. It's just out that group that's on the far side. And I think that fog has played out now. I'm not gonna get into calling no names. Everybody knew who they were. You don't hear anything about them now, but boy, they did a number on us. They came up with all kind of wacky stuff, these groups, extreme groups. And it's sad because they jumped on us in a really trying time. Here we faced with something we don't know anything about, and we're trying to do the best we can. And we did. I'm proud of how we handled that, by the way. That's what I want. Even though it cost me, my stance was good. Okay. I did the right thing, and that's what matters.
Very good. Now, this is Anthony Anderson. He's running for Martin County School Board District 4. Anderson, for folks that are new to the area, what does that name bring? It's actually a name on one of our schools. Is there any relation?
David Anderson, a lot of people think he was my dad. David was not my dad. David was my brother. And he wasn't even my oldest brother. He was just one of 5 boys. But David was quite a guy. David attended the one-room schoolhouse that they talked about here, Ms. Costello Williams, doing segregation, 6 grades and one teacher. And I would always play, they did a nice documentary on that, and I would always play that during a certain time of the year. It was good motivation. The kids loved it. Look at the little schoolhouse. But I played it for a reason. I was challenged the kids to say, and that was before my time. I was so passionate about them restoring that. One of the commissioners said, well, what year did you go there? I didn't go there. It was before my time, but I know the stories. And they were impressed with that, right? But I would use that to say, now, most of the kids that went here, and it wasn't a whole lot of blacks at the time, not a whole lot of us here, but the ones that went there, man, they all turned out really good. They're professionals. David goes on being a member of the one was hand-me-down books, didn't have the best of things, had one teacher, but he had a lot of, at home, he had encouragement. He had parents that said, you're going to go to school, you're going to behave. Unlike today, these kids, parents are letting them do so disrespectful. It was a different, and that made the difference. That balanced out the deficiencies that the schools did not. And David went on to, David is credited with bringing higher education to Martin. A lot of people don't know that. Folks that came here in the last 20 years, there's so much they don't know. So here's a kid that goes to the one-room schoolhouse, right? He goes on to college, teach for a while at Martin County High, gets a job at Indian River State College. It was junior college at the time as a counselor. And he becomes a counselor there. And right away, he sees the need for kids in Martin County. They need to be able to get transportation, because during that time still don't have a good public transportation. So he was finally able to get them to run a bus to Martin County, because other than that, parents had to take their kids or find a way for them to go. That's a hardship. And now this is for all kids, black, white, Hispanic. He's an advocate for all kids. Here's this little guy that went to the one-room schoolhouse. He goes there and he convinced the president, hey, we got Martin County. We're not that far away, but we're far enough that they need help. So they run a bus. He continues to lobby the president. And what do you think they finally do? They open a site off US 1, just off Indian Street in US 1. There was an old dilapidated building there. I was a junior in high school. David would go out there on the weekends with college personnel, including myself and anybody. We started to paint up and fix up that old building, and they opened the first branch for Indian River Junior College. And so he's really credited with bringing higher education to Martin County. Do you see the power of what could happen when someone a lot of people don't know that story. There's so many stories they don't know. I could write a book or a movie, and I still plan on doing one. Time just wouldn't allow it right now. And I'm talking good stuff. Good stuff.
Absolutely. That's great. I didn't realize that. It's a wonderful story, and education's everything. It opens the doors for
But he was all about education. And anybody that sits on that school board, you should be pro-public education. And if you're not, you need to jump off and jump off quick. Don't wait to be defeated or whatever. Just jump off now, because you're not doing right. I mean, you're over public education, but underneath you're pushing for charter schools that's not even certified. Now, there's some nice charter schools out there, private schools. I'm not talking about them. There's some that serve that special purpose where they offer, but a lot of them are not, man. And then you're draining the public funds. And so we got problems. And then that's causing problems where some schools, I understand, may need to be closed because of money. And then people don't want the schools to close. But how do you expect for us to survive when we have all these negative elements going against us and nobody seems as if they want to try and do something about it? I think it's a setup to fund. Listen, public schools, that's what we call Americana. It's deeply rooted into the fabric of America. And anybody that want to do away with that, something's wrong with you.
All right. So I'm talking about that school board. What do you believe the current board has gotten right? And where do you believe it has gone off course?
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. When I got defeated, I know some of them thought that I was going to be there every 2 weeks waving my hands, unlike how some of them did me when we were after COVID. Every day they're foaming at the mouth and pointing fingers and telling me this. I did not. When I left, I gave that speech, as you said. I never looked back. I didn't even watch another school board meeting because I was done. Personally, I was a little bit disappointed that I lost because I knew I was the better member and people finally saw that. But within when you know you've done your best and you did all that you could do. Now, the only thing I probably could have done better was campaign mode. But I was so exhausted by the foolishness until I said, you know what? Those that are in their right mind, they're going to vote for me regardless because they know. Those that's buying into the hype, they're not. Now, I probably should have done a better job of campaign. But at that point in time, it didn't matter to me one way or the other. So I walked away, and you may not believe this. I happened to watch one part of one meeting when some of the board members was leaving, and I remember one saying something about they gave them a chance to make a parting speech, and they took a shot at me. They don't know to this day that I picked up on it. And it's just coincident that I have to be looking at it, right? And they said, well, I could get up and give a long speech like that other person did when they left. Well, yeah, they were making fun at me. But there was a lot I had to say and could have still been talking because that was not right the way that went down. You actually just, you painted me in a way that I was nothing like that. And that was kind of, but people that know me know better. So my point is I walked away. I haven't watched another meeting and I don't know so much about one other thing they need to do. I tell you what they need to do. They're holding the line to a certain degree. They need to become more friendly with nonprofits. I don't know what's wrong with the leadership up there, but they are not friendly with nonprofits. And nonprofits are helping, they're all our kids. They're helping us very much, but they're not too warm to them because I think it's a power struggle. It's an ego trip. Or what? Man, if somebody can come in and be an assistance, I don't care who it is. It could be, the United Way, Boys and Girls Club, House of Hope. And I know the Boys and Girls Club does a whole lot. I'm not even going down that road there. But I mean, a lot of other people wish they had a Boys and Girls Club like what we have here. But it's almost like, for some reason, I don't know. I'm not going to even go down that road. But they're not treated that way. So I like to see them listen, nonprofits are not competitors, okay? They're partners. And for goodness sake, grow up and understand that. The light doesn't always have to. I was one of the ones that pushed for that. And I got that through executive sessions because the old adage during that time, well, we don't know if we want to do that because we never done that. It's the old thing. Oh, we never done that before. Well, just because you never did it doesn't mean you should not have done it or it wouldn't work. And look how it's working. Okay. And there were some other things too that happened in some special hearings. These people don't want to work, man. They don't want to get to the root of the problem. It's easy to just say, let's just get rid of it or whatever. And I'll tell this story. I wasn't going to tell it, but I got to tell this. And this let me know the value of me being on the board because I get other people to see. So there was once a dispute between two coaches out at Martin County High. One was a much younger, cocky guy. One was an older, seasoned guy. All right. And believe it or not, they got into a fight in front of the kids. In sports are a little bit different. Numbers kind of flare. The young guy jumped on the older guy. So, of course, when that happens, you immediately have to be taken out of your position and you go in timeout. They put you on. They had these guys picking up paper at other sites. I understand until they find out what you're going to do, you have to do that. All right. So we finally have the hearing and it was recommended that the two of them be fired. So the night of the hearing, I'm sitting there and I'm listening at this. Wait a minute. This don't add up. Somebody should be fired. But I don't see where the guy that was attacked should be fired. And he should not have been, okay? And his lawyer even said he was attacked. But you know what happened? He was a much older person at the top of the scale. They just assumed, let's just get rid of it. Clearly, the young guy, they didn't have a hearing for him because he left. He knew he was gone, okay? But the older guy said, I want my job. I didn't do anything. I was embarrassed. He jumped on me. They got me picking up paper after all these years because I understand you couldn't go back to your position. And so the superintendent, and it wasn't this term either, by the way, said that recommended be fired. And I was like, no, something's wrong with this picture. Anyway, I was finally able to get the board. And this is a closed doors hearing. Nobody get to see this. They finally and during our deliberations, I was finally able to get the others to see, just because that's what the recommendation was. That may be the easy way out, but man, that ain't the right way. It ain't the best way. Here's what happened. And I was able to take my time being a teacher, being in education. I was able to cut through everything and finally get the light bulb to go on into the rest of those people head who was ready to rubber stamp what the superintendent said and get them out of there. And I got the most beautiful letter from that guy and his attorney saying, thank God somebody exercised some common sense. That should not have happened. But this is the kind of stuff that's going on. Nobody want to work. You want the big title, you want the pay. But then when it gets tough, you want to shrink up and not make a decision. Well, you know what? If you can't stand the heat, get out the kitchen. The old saying goes. All right. So these are the things that makes me, I think, valuable. And again, not that I'm smarter than anybody, but again, I talk about my education, which is my training. All right. Can't take that away. That's good. And everybody gets that. Talk about my institution of knowledge. Being here a long time gives me a wide angle view where I know a lot of instances, got a lot of different real stories to draw from that help me with today. That's why history is important. I look back at the history and it guides me to controversy. That's why I can make a decision, because I've seen so. And then my experience. There's no substitute for, they used to say there's no substitute for cash. That's true. But there's no substitute for experience either. And even when I was a teacher, I should have known something was brewing. I have other teachers come to me. Now I'm just a regular teacher, just like them, right? And they would come to me with a problem. Can I talk to you? And I would talk to them. I would hear them out. And I would tell them as best I could. And at least they left there feeling that somebody understand. I'm not a nut. He knows what's going on. Whether I'm going to get the assistance or the help I need is another thing. But, you needed a sounding board. And then people started saying, you need to run for school board. Even that. Oh, not me. And that's how it all started. So leadership is almost like duty calls, and I answered the call. And although I thought I was off, duty calls again. I'm gonna try one more time, because it's a humbling experience. I'm telling you, when I say I was done, I wasn't angry with anybody. I just was like, I got a call from out of town. I do a lot down in Boca Raton. I got 2 awards in my day. One in 2015. It was Barnes & Noble put on a My Favorite Teachers contest. A lot of people don't know this, because if the school board don't sanction it, they act like it didn't even happen. Even if it's one of their own that gets the glory. It's just sad the way they operate, okay? And it resulted from one of my students. I'm teaching middle school. One of my students, I didn't even know anything about Barnes & Noble had a My Favorite Teacher. One of my students wrote an essay that was so moving about I was the favorite teacher. Do you know it advanced all the way to the southeastern portion of the United States? I went to nationals with that essay. Didn't win national. Had I won, I would have gotten $5,000. The school district would have got. But by winning and going to the southeastern, do you know what wasn't one word mentioned in the school district about me getting that award?
Yeah,
Because the school board didn't have anything to do with it. But it didn't matter about that, okay? In 2017, somebody down at FAU found out about me. I'm a grad of the alumni of FAU.
Okay.
And I got a call, and I went down for a couple of interviews. And every year, for the last, I don't know how many years, maybe 15, 16 years, they have a yearly thing called a Distinguished Alumni Award. And they pick a past graduate that's doing good in their field. It's like 9 different divisions. It could be engineering, it could be education. And in my field, it was called arts and letters. When I was there, it was called humanities, because I was a history man. So it's different divisions, but they have that annual big to do, and they pick somebody from all the different, and they have a big thing. And I got this award, Distinguished Alumni. They noticed that way down there. When I lost the election and I went down to a meeting, somebody said, what in the world is wrong with the people in Martin County? I heard you lost. I said, yeah. He said, well, if they don't know what they got down there, we welcome you down here. So there you have it, man. But I'm not one that toot my own horn. I will just tell it like it is, and what's sad, man, people were coming out there very angry and saying, actually, I was pretty cool. Because I seen the day I wouldn't have been. I know I didn't do anything out of the way, but just the fact that I was not intimidated and I spoke truth to power. And I don't even know if that was power that was speaking. But anyway, I spoke truth to those that thought they had the power and wanted to jerk my chain and make me whatever I was, simply because you didn't like the decision about a mask. Are you serious? Are you serious? And that caught fire. And it took them over the top. But here we are.
Here we are. And you just mentioned it previously, and we're going to go into it now. Your parting speech in the 22 2022 defeat. You gave a very candid farewell speech, and in it, you said Martin County has a race problem, criticized some members of the Black community for not supporting you, and alleged that members of your own Republican Party worked against your reelection by making false claims about your positions. Looking back 4 years later, was that speech primarily the reaction of a disappointed candidate, or do you still believe those observations accurately describe Martin County and the local Republican Party today?
It's not everybody, but it was accurate then and is accurate now. I will not take that back. I know what they did. They had calls out of the Republican office. They had already aligned, not everybody, but the ones that had the power. Okay, they made it. So no, I told the truth, and I'll tell it again. But I think a lot of people see their mistake now. But no, that was factual. I mean, it wasn't that I just told it what happened. I mean, how else? How would a guy like me lose that's been here around, given so much, live and breathe this stuff, other than to have stuff fabricated? And the problem with me is that I did not do a good job of trying to combat. But it's hard for me to try to combat something that's insane, because then I look like the nut too if I get out there with it. So a lot of stuff, but it didn't help me in it because I didn't. But no, I just told them. I told them the truth, and no, I don't take that back. It was what it was. Yeah.
All right. In that same speech, you specifically claimed that people within that Republican Party were making the calls that you just mentioned, alleging you supported critical race critical race theory, and opposed parental rights. Do you still stand by that allegation? And who specifically were you referring to?
I was referring to the people that did it, and some did it. I'm not going to get up here and call any name. They knew who they were, okay? They wanted the other candidate to win. And it was a strategy thing with that group that were jumping up that day, since you want to call names, Moms for Liberty, these other groups, whoever they call themselves, the Mad Moms or whoever they are, that things don't go their way and they want to go in. And that's the sad part. And that's the problem with a lot of our structure down on the school board and in administration, and God bless him, the superintendent. All it takes is somebody to get mad at you, and then they mount a campaign against you, and they kill you. They publicly, and it doesn't have to be true. And so they're so busy trying to be careful not to rattle anybody, they can't even do their job. And that's sad. That's why I'm saying that public education needs to come to the forefront. And a lot of people know that there's a certain group in this county that want to bulldoze public education. They want to dismantle it. And so they're threading lightly around that. But let me tell you something. It is public education that's deeply rooted into the fabric of you get school choice, so you can have whatever you want. I'm not against school. Take your kid wherever you want. They've given you that. So why can't you let that be and let public education live? But no, they want to totally dismantle. Let me tell you something about this privatized thing. This is where institutional knowledge come in. Back in 1999, the school bus, that school board voted to privatize the buses. My brother happened to be on the board. He voted against it. I think he was on the losing end 3-2. Well, they had a company called Laylor came in. They come in. I think what happens, they give the workers a little higher rate on the hour, but no benefits. And then so we got citizens that's here paying taxes. You're losing that, okay? So the school board say, it's cheaper for us. Something that may be cheaper may not be the best. May be cheaper for you, but so you wipe that out. You prioritize that. The company, I think, had the closest main office was in Fort Lauderdale. I understand they were bringing their buses up here on the weekend, got our people working on them. Lasts for about 2.5 years, and it went belly up.
Wow.
And let me tell you something about the privatization. You don't know who owns what. Today it may be this company. Next year it could be another. The next year it could be somebody in another country that owns you. Really? Is that what we want in Martin County? But some people don't know these things because they hadn't been around to know that.
That's right. That's right. One thing, you definitely have said it, and it's no question, Tony, you are candid. You're flat out open. You'll answer anything, and that's greatly appreciated. There's no doubt I'm enjoying this conversation with you.
Thank you.
Last part of this conversation, or last part of the question here on your farewell speech was, you also spent much of your farewell speech describing what you believe are ongoing racial problems in Martin County, sharing personal experiences with racism, and arguing that the community still has issues that need to be addressed. Yet, at the end of the same speech, you distributed a book titled The Hoax Behind Critical Race Theory and encouraged people to read it. Some voters may see those positions as contradictory. How do you distinguish between acknowledging racism and supporting critical race theory?
Listen, everybody put their 2 cents in on a hot button. I call it a hot button issue. Okay, you have to hear. Actually, sometimes it's two sides. You have to listen at every side of the story, and then let your intelligence. I'm not trying to tell you how to think. I'm just saying that there's more to the story than a lot of times we're being told. Okay, critical race theory, as I know it, is something that's taught at the upper division level. It doesn't even come into the primary areas of our public school, mainly in law school. Whether you want to admit it or not, we have had a problem with race in this country. Oh, have we? Okay. And I don't want to get baited into this because this could be another thing that turn people. It's sad. You can't even tell the truth these days. People getting mad if they don't like what's happening. But there is such a thing as critical race theory. It's not being taught in schools. I don't believe it should be taught in our public school. It's a whole different thing. It's an upper division, graduate level. When people begin to debate, let's face it, we know we've had our share of problems in this country. And so there are different schools of thought. That's what I call it. Okay. And that's all it is. Another point of view. And unless you experience something, you only know what you know. But it's about opening up and looking at it from a different angle. What the American Revolution, I think, has about, I don't know, 6 different interpretations. Now, you and I know it only happened one way, but there's 6 different interpretations. Some people said that it wasn't so much that we wanted our freedom here and we were being not treated fair by the crown. They said that what had happened once they got over here, they got greedy and they wanted to break off and break off all ties. That was one economic interpretation of the American Revolution. That's what it's called. So there are different interpretations. So unless you're going to arm yourself to know about everything, don't try to speak like you're an expert on it. Just know all sides. That's all I'm saying. And there's some little bit of truth. Well, they say there's a little bit of truth to everything, and somewhere in the middle lies the real truth. So there you
Always.
have it.
Always. So Martin County Schools continues to show improvement in FAST scores and other academic metrics. What specific actions would you take to accelerate those gains? And please be specific as possible.
Again, everything rise and fall in the classroom. If we keep losing teachers, okay, if we keep losing students, things are going to be on the decline because, teachers are your best resources. You got to have them. And the big turnover is not working. And also, I keep emphasizing teachers, but administrators need to be given the freedom to run their schools and make some decisions, okay? They need to be able to support the teachers and not feel as if they're going to have some repercussions from if a teacher has a problem. It's almost like a disgruntled worker. You got a disgruntled worker in your company, that could be your biggest problem. They could take your business down because they don't like you. Now, gladly, I would say teachers operate on a different, they're just different. A lot of them are unhappy. They don't like what's going on, but the teacher in them will not make them like hold back from doing the best they could. It's in them. They can't help it. They spend their own money for material, even though they're hurting for money. I know, I've been there. My wife done that. We do what we got to do because at the end of the day, it rides and falls on me. And so I need to be prepared regardless of what. Yeah, there may be some issues that I'm not happy with, but at the end of the day, I don't want to look, it's gonna reflect on me. So I'm gonna do all I could. So I'm simply saying there needs to be a real support for teachers, and that's hear them, listen at them. There's a list of things. I don't have time to go into all that. There needs to be a committee that will hear these people so they could at least, if you keep hearing like a recall with a new car even have flaws, right? And how do they know? You keep taking it back to the dealer. They're supposed to keep a record of it. Pretty soon, hey, this is a chronic problem here. We need to look into that. You don't do it off 1 or 2 because you could get 1 or 2 teachers that's kind of off-center. I'm not talking about that. But when there's a chronic report of what's going on or what's lacking or what needs to be done, man, listen to the people. That's what you need to do. And that, if we can start with that, things will keep going.
Makes sense. A common criticism of public school systems nationwide is administrative bloat. What are your thoughts on the current level of administration within the Martin County School District?
Well, I'm not the superintendent. I'm not there. I trust their judgment that they need what they need. I know that sometimes people get a little upset because teachers are not getting what they need. And they say, well, they got a lot of fat up there. This is a very complex business that we're in. And we are held to a higher standards than the so-called charter schools. And you need people to head these departments. And so I'm not going to say that they have a lot of bloat up there. I'm not going to say that. What I am going to say is that they just need to make sure that they monitor that every year and do their jobs. But for goodness sake, give the teachers what they need as well and listen to them. That's why you're up there. If you're up there, all the more you should listen to them. So now I'm not going to criticize that because there's so much record keeping and things that has to go on. And so you need people to please the accountability reports. So, I trust their judgment, but I also am not happy with the way they're treating their personnel. Teachers, bus drivers, bus aides, they don't even listen to the problems that the people on the bus drivers were quitting because the kids were so disrespectful and nothing is happening. That's ridiculous. They're afraid to suspend a student because the parent's going to come to a school board meeting and point at you and call you something that you're not. Well, they did it to me. That goes with the territory.
That it does. That it does. So is it safe to say that you believe the district right now has the right balance between classroom resources and administrative staffing?
Proof that they don't. And so I'm going to say it's okay. When I get there in a few months, we'll examine that. And trust me, we will make the necessary adjustments if they need to be made.
Okay. School safety remains a top concern for your parent or for parents in general. What additional measures, if any, would you support to improve student and staff safety, and would you support expanding the Guardian program?
School safety, first of all, that's got to be first and foremost. I think basically, and it's sadly, but there's a lot of money that goes towards that. There again, just like the charter schools, there are other ways that we can have that addressed. Some want to go with our local police department, and I know they're qualified, and that's what we're doing, so that's what we're doing. But there are other options out there, and we just at some point in time need to keep, revisiting it and to see if we think, because down at the area down south there, you had a certified cop down there too. Now I don't know the particulars because I wasn't there, so I can't judge that man. But some seem to think that he went and hid. Now he's a certified cop. My thing is, you don't know what you got until you need it. And so if we needed something like that, you may find out you don't have what you thought you had. But right now, we want to err on the side of safety. So we think we got the biggest and the best. That's what we got. We continue to do that, and we look at the other option. One thing I know, you can't have the cake and eat it too. We cannot keep losing this funding, okay, and try to carry on all these programs.
Right.
Something's got to go.
Right.
Something's got to go, man.
Right.
And so, and I'm not in a position to make that decision because, like I say, when I walked away, I wasn't no thorn in those people's side. I didn't go up there pointing my finger, telling them you did a bad job. I respect them, just the fact that they're there. And I will tell you, some of them bring some very, might not be in education. You don't have to be in education to be a good school board member. Some of them bring some valuable experience there. But what my beef is, you don't have one educator on the board.
Right. Right.
So here's your chance to get that one educator. And
Right.
I think it'll make a better board. That's all I'm saying. I worked with some of the other board members up there, and they were fabulous. They were great in the field of finance, public relations, whatever. You need that balance now. But to say you don't have one educator up there, and then the ones that are there, I'm not so sure that they're really ringing the bell for public education because they know that there's a schism going on now that's trying to do away with it. Well, you need to, like I say, I'm going to end with this. School board members should be public education's biggest and best ambassadors. And if you can't sit there and it's almost like we're in a situation now, we got to sell our own brand after all of these years of what we've been doing because it's been so tarnished, not because we tarnished it. The work is still being done, but there's a stigma out there, or there's a perception out there that public education is not cutting it. Well, if public education is not cutting it, some of these little do-drop-in charter schools sure as heck not cutting it.
Right.
And you're not going to cut it because you're not cutting it now. You're not playing by the same rules. So give me a break.
How should the district balance parental rights with the professional judgment of teachers, media specialists, and administrators?
That's really simple. We are trained in our areas of public education and public policy to do what we need to do, whatever it may be. And it's a complex situation. I don't need to overstep my bounds and try and be the parent. That's not my job. But when it comes to something that's going to affect everybody, like the mask wearing, man, that was going to affect everybody. And just because there may have been 15% they want their kids to wear a mask, I'm sorry, I couldn't give you that one. Because there was 85% out there that was adhering to the policies. But that 15% raised so much saying about it until you cannot be afraid to make the hard calls. And that's where we are now with leaders. They're afraid to make the hard calls because they're afraid of what they call repercussions. And repercussions are sometimes I know sometimes, a lot of times they're false. They're outright lies. It's perpetuated to make you look, because I'm mad because he didn't give me what I wanted. You can't be afraid of that. You got to do what you got to do. So, you look at what's what in your professional knowledge, you do it. But no, it doesn't mean that we're doing the parent's job or we know more. I just know what needs to be done for the common good. And you have options, again, like I said. So if you don't like what's going on, then take them to another school at that rate, if that's the case. But we have to hold the line. You can't have complete chaos. You can't have everybody. Come on, you know. Yeah.
Book removals have become one of the most debated issues in education. What standards should be used to determine whether a book remains in a school library, and where do you believe the line should be drawn?
When it comes to our public schools, we just need to have some type of balanced committee, okay, to review things when there's a problem and then take it to the next higher level and make the decision. There could be some things that's really way over the top and it needs to be addressed. But this stuff about completely banning books, I mean, if a book is written, good, bad, or ugly, I mean, we're in a democracy. So you can't just say, I don't like that book, so we need to just burn it up and don't let it be allowed in this country. No, I think in the school district, we do have to put some filters on there. Okay. Just like these computers. Parents talking all that talk, but a lot of times their kids have access to the internet. They're doing all kind of things.
True.
But there's some stuff that's over the top and it should not be out there in schools. I will tell you that. But that needs to be kind of on a case by case basis, not driven by one or two people who say, I don't think I like this, because they may not like something that's totally harmless. Because some people have they got some ideas that's way out there, man. They're not in touch with reality. Yeah.
Got it. And you're right. There's a lot of opinions, and everybody has one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Next topic, the Matt Theobald controversy generated significant public attention and strong opinions throughout the community. If you had been serving on the school board at the time, would you have supported the decision to terminate Matt Theobald? Why or why not?
I did not hear the particular case. I still don't know what's going on. I just know that he was an excellent teacher. I know that people in every profession may make some mistakes, and I'm not saying he even made a mistake. I don't really know the whole story. But I do believe, if at all possible, if you have a outstanding person in the field, whether it was a medical doctor, a teacher, in this case, we're talking Matt. He was a great teacher from what I understand. And unless he did something that's really, really, really over the top, sit him down, talk to him, write him up, and let him go do his job. I think he's intelligent enough to learn from that and move on. But to can him, I'm not so sure if that was the thing to do. But like I say, I wasn't on the board, so I wouldn't know. If I was there, it may have been a different thing, because I think as an educator, I could have brought some light and some common sense to it, if that's what was needed. Because a lot of times I only need some common sense. Yeah, it ain't always about the recommendation is the easiest thing to do. You rubber stamp it, guess what? I don't have to wrestle with it. Well, you were paid to wrestle with it. You were paid, unfortunately, to have some sleepless nights. And I've had some sleepless nights when I was on the board. It was not all good, but I understood that went with the territory. And I didn't regret it or resent it. I didn't ask for it, but it was before me. And I have to be responding to and be accountable to what my job title calls for.
So, what are the most important criteria you would use when evaluating the superintendent's performance?
I would look at, well, you have to look at the overall health of the district for our scores, because everything rides and falls on leadership. Okay, that's just one part of it. Okay, I would look at feedback from other major players in the county to see if he's playing well with them. Okay, the relationship with people that's under him and the teachers. There's a number of different things. No one thing would sink him. I mean, there has to be. You look at a lot, but it'll be pretty clear cut if he doesn't deserve to be there. I think, if I was there, I would get a good. I try to be a fair and balanced person, and if I say you need to go, you probably need to go. Okay. Also, I believe that he should be afforded the same thing as teachers. If there seem to be some shortcomings or deficiencies, sit him down and talk to him and say, here's where we are. I believe it's too much good there than what's bad. And so we're going to work with you so you can be successful. You have to be fair. He has a tough job.
Yes, he does.
And a lot of it is treading water. Because again, I know his biggest fear has to be what me as a board member. All you need is a couple of disgruntled citizens to come out there and start pointing the finger and mount up a few of their friends to start hooping and hollering and carrying on and saying, oh, he's a bad person. And I know that got to keep him up at night. Out of all the good that he may do, all it takes is one disgruntled person to get on his case and they can make his life a living hell. And that is so sad. It's easier to tear down than to build up, right?
True.
Okay.
What is one issue facing Martin County schools that you believe is not receiving enough public attention?
One issue, did you say?
Yes.
I don't think the teachers receive enough public attention on how good they do. That's what I think. That's the biggest thing. They do a really good job, and they're not getting enough. We got to go back and almost sell our brand to see how not only the teachers, but overall, the bus drivers. Do you know that that's a heck of a thing running the school district? From the time a kid get on a bus in the morning, getting them there safe, keeping them safe, keeping the schools clean before even learning take place. There's so many other elements got to go right. And I don't think that brand is out there. That our workers, all of them, for the most part, you may get one or two off center, but they're doing an excellent job in public schools. It's a hard job, and people need to respect that and honor these people. And wherever it's possible, to pay. They can't even live in Martin County. Okay, I was pushing one time to see if we could do something about housing for teachers, and a couple of the board members said, well, that's not our job. Well, it's not our primary job, but here's what I'll say to that. They're our teachers, and if there's not reasonable enough housing here in the county that they're working in for them to live, let me ask you something. If you had a kid and that kid was grown and out of your house, but that kid was having a hard time and needed to come back home or needed to have some assistance financially or whatever, would you say that's not my job? No. You'll be trying to make them in, may take them in, may give them some money, whatever, because that's your kid. So what I say to that is that may not have been our job. We didn't bargain for that. That may not be the first priority. But now that is a problem, that's my job, to get them some housing relief. And we should be able to do that.
Given the district's improving academic performance and other positive metrics, why should voters make a change? And what specifically would you do differently than the current board?
Well, like I said before, so much for the A school, okay? And just because we've been getting by, and I think if they replay the tape, I'd probably be redundant on what I'm saying here now, is that we've been getting by despite what we have. We need to have an educator on the board. And it just so happened that I'm that one, and I've got the experience, and I've been there. Or it could have been anybody, but it happens to be me now. You would want another face on that board to help give you more insight and another person to at least be able to elaborate when the issues come up. Because, I listen to people sometimes, and I learn a lot by listening because I don't know everything. But what I do know, I know. And I know education from top to bottom. Okay, I've done teaching, I've done counseling, I've worked at the higher education level, the counselor at the college, vocational ed, all of these things that are part of what's going on today. Been there, done that. Some of these people have no idea what's going on. I mean, they well, I don't want to go there, but anyway, yeah, I'm not going there today.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
my experience, my institutional knowledge will give you an extra pair of eyes and another brain to think about things, and don't just sweep things under the rug or just ignore things because you don't want to deal with or don't have the capability or the capacity to address it. That's all I'm saying. You want your best people at the table.
So, Tony, we are actually on our last question now, and you've pretty much answered the first part of it, but it's also your opportunity to cover anything that you want covered that we haven't. And that is, it's a two-part question. First part, why should voters vote for you? And secondly, how can they support your campaign?
Well, yeah, they should vote for me because, first of all, my background, my education, my institutional knowledge, my experience, and, my willingness to just get there and do a good job. When I serve, I'm not serving for Tony Anderson. It ain't about me. If it was, first of all, I'd probably do a shabby job because I wouldn't care. But I'm there for all the people that have come before me. We didn't just get to be Martin County just this year. I've watched the leadership for years prior to integration and right on to. I feel like I owe our predecessors. I'm a product of that. And what a good return that they can get because of I learned so much from them. Okay, other administrations. We had some really good superintendents. Tom Crook, that y'all would never know about. VJ Nowitzki. When you saw Mr. Nowitzki coming, teachers didn't want to go the other way. They wanted to go see him because the first thing he wanted to know, how are you doing? How's your family? He was warm. He wanted you to know I'm on your side. He wasn't trying to just brush you off or like he was so covered with other issues. That human and that touch that made you feel respected and honored was there. Okay, and so I have that old school touch, man. I know the importance of, first of all, letting people know that you genuinely care about them. Teachers don't feel like management and administration care about them because they probably, I wouldn't say they don't care about them, but that's not really on their, they're worried about covering themselves. And that's kind of sad. So a good choice with me because I'm going to give it my all. I will be there for you. I've like I said, there's a lot of things I was able to intervene on before it became a problem. And sadly, the public would never know about a lot of that. And it took place in executive sessions when I was able to duke it out with them. And I got to say that even in my agreement with the board that I work with, I got to, and I give credit to them. Even when we vehemently disagree with each other, it was never nasty. They were always respectful to me. I was always respectful to them. I was strongly opinionated, and so were they. I never took it personal, and they never took me personal. And I tip my hat to them. We work very well, and that's the way it's got to be. You know, come on, you gotta have tough skin, man. You gotta have tough skin, and you can't be sitting. Oh, you disagree with me, so you don't like me. Got nothing to do with you. It's about the matter at hand.
Right.
So that's what you're gonna get.
And how can they reach you to support your campaign?
You can go to the website there. I don't have a white website yet. It's in the making, but if you go on to Supervisor Elections Office, you would see my information. People know how to get a hold of me. Send me a check. I would appreciate it. I take money to run a campaign, and I'm now in the thick of it. I'm a little slow getting in, but the money's starting to come in, and people are coming by. And like I say, I qualified the other day and everything. Ain't no way to find me. I mean, you know, just mail it to me. It's there. The information is there. I plan to have I'm gonna have a website up and some other things going on. I got a lot of good people behind me, by the way. That's the reason why I'm running. I'm only running because I'm encouraged by what I've seen. I would not be out here again just because I wanted to get back. That would not be the case. I've almost said that. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you where the final breaking point came. I had a conversation with somebody that I really respect. When I had already made up my mind I wasn't gonna run. And they were talking to me and they said, "You need to come back." I said, "No, I'm fine. I'm okay. I don't need that." And they said, "Who said you needed it? Who said you wasn't okay?" They said, "You were okay before you became a board member. You were okay while you were a board member. You were okay after you were defeated. And you're going to be okay when you win again." And I just broke down and started crying, saying, I thought I was saying something, but they set me up beautifully with that. I'm saying I'm okay. I don't need that. They said, "Who said anything about you wasn't okay? It's not about you being okay. We need you." And that's where we are today. I'm here because of the call. The call.
Well, we have just sat down with Tony Anderson. Again, he's running for Martin County School Board District 4 seat. It's the seat he previously held before the current board member, which is Amy Pritchett. And it's truly been a pleasure, Tony. And I want to remind folks, our elections in Martin County happen on August 18th, not in November. You have to go out and vote on August 18th. The primary decides Martin County races, and that's across the board. So please, please, please make sure you're registered and get out there and vote on August 18th. And whether you agree or disagree politically, there are conversations that mattered to the Treasure Coast. The goal here is to hear directly from the candidates and let voters decide for themselves. Don't forget, follow the KC Ingram Show on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube for more real talk you won't hear anywhere else. I'm KC Ingram. Stay informed, stay engaged, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you again, Tony.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the interview.
My pleasure, completely. You'll see